I'm Chef Mike Moses, and welcome to my kitchen and a 5-ingredient Friday. Today's ingredients: squash, butternut squash, acorn squash, some ginger, some shallots, some chicken stock, and we're gonna make a gorgeous roasted squash soup. Coming up. Before we do any cutting, we have to make sure that we have some parchment paper for our baking trays. I have 2 baking trays here, and I usually pull off a roll of parchment paper, and I figure the best way to do it is get your parchment paper in the tray, start folding over the edges. There we've got our length, and 1 fold here for our width. There is 1 tray ready to go. Why parchment paper, you ask? Well, it makes cleanup on the tray a lot easier. Plus, it's not sticky, so the oil and the salt and pepper that we put on our squash has a better chance to adhere to the actual squash and not stick to the pan. My 2 trays are done. Time now to cut up the squash. We'll top and tail it. So, top and tailed. You also want to use a very sharp knife for this. And I like to cut mine into quarters. Now you see I just have a little pocket of seeds that I have to remove from each one, and I'll do that with a paring knife. You just take your paring knife, go in, around, and there is your butternut squash already de-seeded. Do a few more of these. Okay, that's our butternut squash ready to go on the tray. So I'll put my butternut squash on the tray, skin side down, drizzle some olive oil on each piece, and season with your salt and pepper. All right, that's our butternut squash ready to go in the oven. Now we do the acorn squash. Once again, top and tail. Be very careful, these are extremely tough. You want to get your fingers out of the way. Take your knife, run it around the edges. And that's how easy an acorn squash is. We'll put that on the tray. We're going to take about a thumb-sized piece of ginger. Just cut it square, trim it off. Put that on your tray. I want some garlic. Probably want about 4 cloves. 4 cloves should do. Just crush them so that the outer skin comes off. Put our garlic on the roasting pan. I want to do about 3 shallots. All I do is cut them in half. Remove the outer skin. Put it on the roasting pan. Not a lot of chopping is involved because remember, we're going to blend this all up at the end. All right, again, with the olive oil, make sure you get your shallots, your squash, nice layer on them, and of course we season. This is probably all the seasoning we're going to use until we're ready to serve. And we'll taste it before we plate it. It should be delicious. All right, into the oven, 350 degrees, 35 minutes. All right, we've just hauled the roasted squashes out of the oven. They've been in there for about 35 to 40 minutes. Check with a fork to make sure they're tender all the way through. We'll let this cool down a little bit, then we'll start assembling everything to put into the soup. Separated from the skin is basically to take your knife, so you want to do like a fillet of fish, and just remove as much squash as you can without any of the skin. With the butternut, you should be able to peel the skin right off. Chop it up a little, put it in your bowl. Rinse and repeat. Score. and peel. Now, depending upon how dry your squash is, the ends might be very tough, very hard to remove, or if it's a very moist squash, it'll fall off like paper. This one's sort of half and half, but it's working well. Now, before we go to the pot, best thing to do, grab your handy dandy potato masher and give everything a good mash. All right, let's put our squash and onions and garlic and ginger mix into the pot. You can smell the shallots. Now we're gonna add our chicken stock, and you probably wanna add about 4 cups of chicken stock. Stir it around, make sure everything gets coated and starts to break up. We're gonna put this on the boil and then bring it down to a simmer and let it go for 30 minutes. We're gonna reduce the heat, and instead of putting it in a blender, which can get really messy, we're gonna use, I like to call this a boat motor, but it is actually just an immersion blender, and we're gonna blend the soup all up. Now that our squash has been thoroughly blended, you can see it's a gorgeous soup. We'll give it a little taste here. Needs a little salt, needs a little pepper. Not a lot though. I'm gonna bring this back up to temperature and serve you a bowl. All right, for our 5-ingredient Friday, here is your gorgeous squash soup. If you like this video, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And I post videos like this every week, so please subscribe. Also, if you'd like more information, head over to my blog, thepersonalchef.blog, where I post this recipe that you can print off. Thank you very much for watching. I look forward to helping you cook better, eat healthier, and shop smarter.